This is Rob Carbone, and you're listening to BD4.
Here's Barrett, some shake and bake, hits a three. That's eyes in the crowd with Barrett. 5 on the 24. Barrett previously in the air ball. The drive, the land, backs it home. Gets it back, keeps it out. Barrett for three. RJ Barrett from downtown. Quick trigger three. Gets another triple. Looking for more. Smith to the buzzer. From way downtown at the buzzer. No good overlook. Puts it in. They're on their feet at Madison Square Garden. Elliott to Ewing. That'll make the Garden war.
Patrick Ewing faced a double team, but still was able to hit.
The finish and the foul. Houston ducks under. Got it. With 8 left.
Well, I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys football game at the moment. No Giants until tomorrow. This weekend, Ohio State, I'm pretty sure they won yesterday. I stopped watching after the third quarter, but I think they won. Hopefully they beat Penn State. Let's check. 38-25, so been a good weekend. Hope everybody's doing well. Not much is really going on for me. It's been the same old. I did go out to eat the other night. The second time in 2 weeks where I went out to eat. It feels good, man. Tell you, when you're in a pandemic, it's like Christmas when you get to go out. So I was out and I was out watching Ohio State on Saturday. As I'm recording, it is Sunday night. It is a Sunday night, November 1st, 11 p.m. So if you haven't changed or turned your clocks back, fucking be sure to do that. Always messes with people, but I've never really had issues adjusting to it. I kind of like the change. A lot of people want to keep it as it is. But I like it. I like changing it up here and there. I never understood the point of it. I always thought it was very weird and random, but I like it. Daylight savings. But it's going to be quicker now, because that's usually what it is in the fall now. It's like fucking 4 p.m. here, and it'll start getting really pitch black, which is fucking weird. But it's fun. I like the change every once in a while. Gain an hour of sleep, man. Gain an hour of sleep. Dallas is losing 15-9. They might make a comeback because I know they're almost in the red zone at the moment with about 5 minutes remaining. But they got their third string quarterback in. Guys, I was on my buddy's show earlier tonight down the street from me. I had to go and record with him. My buddy Leo has a podcast called Say No More. If you haven't subscribed to Say No More, be sure to subscribe to Leo's podcast right now, or as soon as you're finished listening or watching this podcast, BD4, go tune into Leo's, subscribe to his channel. He's on Apple Podcasts, he's on Spotify, and all the different platforms where you get your podcasts. He's doing a good job, man. He just started it up. He's fairly new. Tonight was his 6th episode, which will be released in the morning on all the platforms. And he's doing a really good job. So if you haven't checked him out, be sure to check out Leo Rodriguez's Say No More. It's a good podcast. Here on BD4, though, we are going to continue to be boring and discuss the New York Knicks. Yes, the New York Knicks of late. It's the same shit. We're going to go over a few things tonight. I have a lot of notes for this one. I'm going to try to read them as quick as I can, but we'll see. So let's do this. Let's head to our first break here on BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. And then as soon as we get back from break, we will get to the episode. We'll get the show started, and that'll be that. So let's head to break. BRB.
All right, fellas. So really quick, I just want to remind you that if you haven't subscribed to my podcast on the many different platforms that I'm on, you can do so right now. And all you got to do that is go to my website. Just go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Once again, in order to subscribe to the podcast and listen to the podcast or watch it on the many platforms we have, go to my website at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect.
Actually, a few things really I fucking forgot to mention. The Yankees been quiet so far, obviously expected in the offseason, but Tommy Kahnle opted for free agency, so his Yankee tenure is likely over. Zach Britton is back. And then earlier today, the Yankees extended a qualifying offer to DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu played here 2 seasons so far. For those of you who don't know, he's a free agent. But the Yankees extended a qualifying offer to him. And so, basically, without going too into detail, what a qualifying offer is, if you don't know, it's like a bullshit offer that a team gets one bullshit offer, and the player is expected to decline it. And then the second time around, the team will actually offer the guy, hopefully, a legitimate contract. So in DJ's case, the Yankees offered him a brief 1 year, $19 million deal. He's probably, I don't think he will accept it, but maybe he will. But if all goes as expected, he's probably going to decline the 1 year, $19 million contract, and I'm going to say the Yankees will be offering him somewhere along the lines of a 3-year deal for $55 million, give or take. That's about 19 a year, or 18.6 if I'm correct, if I'm doing the math right. But that happened today. So if you see DJ LeMahieu decline, this offer, don't get scared, because I don't think the Yankees are that stupid to where they won't offer him a legitimate contract to follow up the qualifier. So, all right. So that happened today, Sunday. So he's got 10 days to accept whether or not he wants to opt in. But speaking of opting in, Giancarlo Stanton did not opt out. He opted in, so he's still on his hefty contract. Hooray! Yeah, that was it. So Tuesday's the election. That'll be fun. All right, let's get to tonight's episode. Talking Knicks. So we talked about RJ Barrett. How his development may go under Tom Thibodeau. We talked about Julius Randle and how Thibs will develop him, maybe use him more as a big like when he did with Noah, like a playmaking big, or a big that can, pass the ball and share the rock a little more, like he did with Noah, and like Thibs did a little more with Gibson and fucking Towns when he was there. So maybe you see Julius Randle play at the top of the key more and dish it more often. We talk about that. We talked about, again, Barrett, how he's going to use him on the wing more often. And so tonight, we're going to start off by talking about how Thibs could develop Mitchell Robinson, and keep improving his game. Mitch has obviously had, he's been in the league for 2 seasons, and he's already had 2 coaches. So he's going on his 3rd season with his 3rd newest head coach here. That's not easy to deal with, but if there's one of the coaches he's had that I want him to develop under, I think he could thrive under someone like Tom Thibodeau. Thibs is known for getting his guys to go out there and fight hard and to play defense, and that's who Mitchell Robinson is, right? So I think if there's one thing I want Thibs to teach somebody like Mitchell Robinson, that is to, show him, we're on the wrong page here, to show him the fundamentals of the game, right? To teach Mitchell Robinson the fundamentals of basketball. Because right now, Mitch is just out there playing basketball, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He's a young kid, right? go out there and play freely. But, he is a bit reckless, and will eventually need to refine those skills that he has, right, in order to take that next step. And so I think as a head coach, that is Tom Thibodeau's job right there, is to teach Mitchell Robinson how to play basketball, right? Teach him the smarts of the game, if that makes sense. Teach him how to be more of a basketball player. And Mitch is very good already, right? Let's not fool ourselves. He's obviously known for his defensive prowess, right? He's an anchor on the defensive end right now. Those are his strengths. He's a very good team defender, help side defender. He's often playing in the drop coverage. I've heard, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy called him a linebacker. And I really like that term, because when he plays the drop coverage, he's kind of that last line of defense at the 5, right, where he's kind of sagging off just enough, but he's playing moderately so where he could get back on the pick and pop, right? He's sagging off in pick and rolls, but he's got a quick enough first jump and he's got long enough arms to where he can get there and still block you on the perimeter, if there's a pick and pop. But if there's a roll, he'll obviously be glued to the screener, and I think he's great there. He's great as a help defender. Good team defensive player. He can play in the passing lanes too because of those long arms. He deflects a lot of balls that go into the RA. Obviously, we know he's an ambidextrous shot blocker. Blocks with either hand, and that's not easy. It's very rare for bigs, and that's obviously he's got some foul issues to work on right now, but the ability to be able to block with either your left or right. In Mitch's case, I think that ability right there could help him avoid fouls in the future, being able to do something like that, especially on the perimeter. But now, under Thibs, we want to see some improvement in a lot of areas. So while Mitch is a great, defensive player, there are still some areas of improvement he's going to have to work on. Obviously, he's going to have to put on some muscles, first and foremost, right? That's him. He's got to hit the gym, get the weights, and, get some strength there. He gets bumped on the perimeter a lot, in the post, in the RA, and that's not going to, that can't fly. He's going to have to gain some kind of muscle. It doesn't have to be, fucking Shaq. It doesn't have to be fucking, an Olympic athlete out there in terms of strength, but he does have to have enough to where he can sustain that for 35 minutes a night across 82 games, right? I don't know if he's that guy right now because of the lack of strength. He's very frail. But under Thibs, I want to see him improve the one-on-one defense. That right now is his biggest issue defensively. That lack of discipline where he has trouble staying on his feet. And, I want to see Thibs kind of coach him to where he's not biting on those jabs and on those fakes. Because I know the craftier bigs have had, have caused trouble on Mitchell Robinson in the past. Guys like Sabonis, guys like Jokic, Cantor, craftier, those European bigs who really know how to get you. That's been Mitch's biggest issue. And on the inside, too, that works. I'm not just talking about on the perimeter, but, there are times where Mitch is in foul trouble, and it's not always his fault, right? Because the Knicks are a switch-heavy team. That's the way their defensive scheme has been, especially under Mike Miller. And a lot of that is, especially under David Fizdale. No, was it under Mike Miller? Yeah, it was Fizdale got fired, and then the Knicks switched a ton. Maybe in the opposite, I don't fucking remember. But there was a lot of times last year where the Knicks were often switching, and Mitch was just left to defend those smaller wings on the perimeter, and that's easy as hell to get him in foul trouble by getting him to bite there. But I just want to see that discipline improve, and hopefully he can tone down those fouls, because right now in Mitch's career, I think his fouls per 36 minutes, I don't know if they're still exceeding the 6 mark, but yeah, it's bad. Offensively, he's not a scoring machine. He's an opportune scorer right now offensively, right? He gets a lot of his buckets from dump off passes from penetrating guards, or getting putbacks, offensive rebounds and putting it back in, fast break scoring, pick and rolls, lobs. He's a very opportune scorer right now. He doesn't create his own. So eventually, I think, like I said, when Thibs has used guys like Noah, Gibson, Towns in the past, in triple threat at the top of the key, as playmakers at the top of the free throw line, I think that's something that we maybe, hopefully, we will see more from Mitchell Robinson. Play higher up there and kind of where Julius Randle operates when he's doing the right thing. So maybe we'll see him shoot some more, right? Obviously, we've seen him talk about it. He said, we've seen those videos of him in the gym shooting the jumpers. I don't put too much weight into that. Maybe he'll shoot some more threes. He said he would last season. He did not. He never did. Maybe it was the Knicks limiting him. And hopefully Thibs, lets him go out there and play a little more freely. And I'm not talking about making this guy, turning Robinson into a fucking stretch. That's the very last thing you need to do with a rim runner like him. I'm talking about 1 to 2 mid-range jumpers a game, maybe a three-pointer every other game. When you're open, when your feet are set, when there's nobody respecting you, shoot that shit. He's got a decent form, nothing crazy, but he should do it enough to where defenses, to where he can put himself on the scouting report, and be respected, so they don't just automatically sag off of him. The form is all right. I was watching some video of him shooting, one of the latest videos of him working on the 3-ball, and one of the things I did notice was the elbow was pointed out a little too much, because I know you're supposed to have it tucked in more than anything, or straight, and have it kind of at like a 90-degree angle, but his elbow was pointed out, wasn't very straight, and the guide hand, his hand was very low. The ball was in his palm, as opposed to being kind of lightly brushed up against his fingertips. It was the form isn't bad, but you're hoping he can break those small little mechanical habits, at the age of 22 already, when he's been doing it his whole career. That's something I'm going to be looking at, if he does start shooting a little bit more. But yeah, those are some of the, just briefly some of the things I would like to see Thibs work with Mitch on, playing him, outside of the, not just, don't be entirely based on playing inside the restricted area. Expand his game a little more, top of the key, maybe, a little more dishing, off-screen passing, and a little more shooting. That would be nice to see him start shooting the ball more, because, the free throw percentages aren't terrible for a big, high 60% range, which isn't the worst in the world compared to where you see Andre Drummond shoot it, to where you see Gobert shoot it. He has enough to where I think he can be respected if he continues to work on the shooting. That's Mitchell Robinson. We're also going to get to Cole Anthony and maybe a little bit of RJ Hampton as soon as we get back from break.
A few different social media platforms today. If you want to follow my Instagram account, follow at Rob J. Carbone. If you want to follow my Facebook or Twitter account, follow at NY Sports Talk RC.
So, I don't know, it was about 3 weeks ago, I want to say. So this is kind of late news, if anything. But about 3 weeks ago, the Knicks, there was a report out there saying that the Knicks are shying away from selecting Cole Anthony, unless he falls to 27, which I don't think will happen. But lately, I think it was his AAU coach who said Cole Anthony will really thrive in the NBA with better spacing, So, there's been some rumblings about this kid. A lot of people like him. A lot of people don't like him. He's one of those guys, you either hate him or you love him. That's the prospect he is. But Cole Anthony is, I just want to briefly dive into his game. Son of Greg Anthony, who obviously a former Knick, 20-year-old kid who went to high school where Melo did, at Oak Hill, but went to UNC, to play college ball there, and he had, a difficult season. UNC was 14-19. That was the first time under Roy Williams, Hall of Fame coach, where they had a losing record. That was the first time in his career. So a lot of people pointed it to Anthony, who, he tore his meniscus, so he missed a bunch of time. He had to get knee surgery. But you got to give credit because although he wasn't great when he came back, he did come back. He didn't just pack it in and wait until draft night. He battled back, and he competed. He's a competitive kid. That's the one thing you can't knock him for. So yeah, we're gonna touch on him a bit. Read a bunch of his some of his scouting report. He's a 6'3", 190-pound guard with a 6'5" wingspan. In 2020, across 22 games, again, wasn't great, but the counting stats were at least there. 19 points a night, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists versus 3.5 turnovers. But the efficiency was pretty bad. He took 16 shots a night at a 38% rate clip. He took 6 3-pointers a night and hit just under 35%. He took 6 free throw attempts and he hit, an average 75%. Defensively, 1.3 steals and 0.3 blocks. All right, so, he had an up and down year with UNC, but that's over with. He's going to the NBA. It's just a matter of who is going to take him, and I think he will be a first rounder, early first round to mid latest. I don't think he will be in the 20s. But I've heard a lot of comparisons, a bunch. I've heard Derrick Rose light. Jamal Murray is one I really like if he does pan out. Kemba Walker, CJ McCollum. I have here Mike Conley, Austin Rivers, DJ Augustine. A lot of comparisons for someone like Cole Anthony. So the ceiling here, I would say all-star caliber / sixth man of the year caliber. That's probably the best you'll get. Someone like, six man / an all-star starter. At worst, you'll probably, bottom of the rotation scoring punch off the bench. Okay, so there's a bit of a disparity. But we'll start with the good parts of his game, his strengths. Okay, Cole Anthony's strengths are shot creating and ball handling. I think that's one thing people notice. The athleticism is very good. He's an athlete. Why is the screen frozen? Hold on. Let's get it to reset. Man, I hate when it does this. I don't know why. There usually is a refresh. Here it is, refresh. Okay, we're good. So, yeah, strengths I have written down, shot creating and ball handling. That's one. Athleticism, playing without the basketball, and then rebounding. Those are the 1, 2, 3, 4 strengths I have written down. In terms of shot creating and ball handles, he's a good player off the dribble. He can he can score fucking... That's how he scores. He scores off the bounce. He's an amazing, isolation, walking bucket when he's hot. A rhythm shooter with a lot of confidence. He's not afraid to step back and shoot it from, a far, far range. A tough shot maker, tough shot taker kind of player, likes to take some difficult shots, step back, side steps, pull-ups, hop shots, a lot of shit like that'll frustrate you and make you love him at times, right? We all know how that works. We had to deal with Melo for 7 years. I loved Melo. But, so, that type of player, somebody who relies on shot creating, creating his own shot is, that can be a blessing and a curse, right? So we'll get to the curse in a bit, but that's also a blessing because, again, you got your guy who could just get buckets for you, straight up buckets. At worst, again, I said at worst, he could still at least score. Athleticism, very quick first step, very quick in the triple threat. Kind of reminds me of Melo there. So he's very quick, difficult to guard in space. Again, one-on-one, good luck when he's hot. And he can, a decent floater through contact. He's got a pretty good floater. He uses that when he's in the mid-range area. That's his in-between move. Rebounding for a guard, man, somebody who gets 6 rebounds a night is very fucking impressive. Again, this kid is 6, what? Have it right here, 6'3". That's not bad. And then here, playing without the basketball. He plays the 2 exceptionally well. He can really do a good job when he's coming off screens and kind of play as a movement shooter. So those are the strengths to Cole Anthony's game. Okay. When we get to the weaknesses now here, that shot selection and playing as a point guard with the shot selection he has isn't the greatest, right? A streaky, again, rhythm shooter, which is a curse at times too. A volume scorer who's hot and cold, who has his gray moments. Creates open looks for himself, but not always for his teammates, right? He'll hit the open teammates, but it'll be late, right? He doesn't get them open. He will hit them when they're open. And, that's going to be an issue. Having some tunnel vision at times. Again, the 3.5 turnovers per game versus the 4 assists was a very, very, very inefficient number for UNC, for the Tar Heels this past season. The finishing needs work. He was 39% at the rim this year. Part of it due to the lack of spacing. UNC didn't have many floor spacers out there to clear the paint, so it was very clogged. But a lot of it's on him too, because he kind of needs to learn how to slow it down and change speeds. He plays quick 110% of the time. Kind of that Westbrook type of mentality. He's very, very full speed. His pace doesn't slow down. He kind of needs to learn how to shift and when to change gears. That hurt him at the rim a lot, defensive commitment. He has the base strength, right? That lower body is very solid, very strong, and he's got the athleticism too to be a good defensive player. It's just as simple as committing on that end. He's not always committed defensively, and that's an issue with a lot of young players, but it's something that's going to have to change in order for him to get a lot of minutes in the NBA. The length, it's interesting. He's kind of a tweener, right? He's kind of a combo guard because Cole Anthony has the style of a 2 guard, right? He has the play type of an off guard, of a shooting guard, but he has the size of a number 1, right? The size of a point guard, but the style of a shooting guard. It's going to be difficult to kind of find out where to play him at times. And hopefully that doesn't become a liability in the NBA, and maybe that's one of the reasons the Knicks don't want him. And then last but not least, the injury concerns. He had ankle issues in high school, and then obviously, once again, the torn meniscus this past season at UNC. So, hopefully that's not something that, carries into the NBA. But that's it with Cole Anthony. A prospect I actually like. Unlike others, it's not his NBA potential that concerns me. That's not what I'm worried about. But it's rather his fit with the New York Knicks. If he struggled with his efficiency because of UNC's lack of talent and lack of spacing, what makes you think that'll improve, on an abysmal Knicks roster, right? The Knicks don't have a ton of floor spacers. The Knicks don't have talent left and right. So maybe they're not the best development spot for somebody like Cole Anthony, who seems like he's going to be a project. Maybe this is why the Knicks aren't too high on him. Maybe this is why they don't want him at number 8 and will only take him if he falls to 27, because he just may not be, fit for the Knicks, where he's going to have to go into a system that has some spacing around him so he can operate in the paint. But the Knicks, obviously, that was their issue last year. That's why R.J. Barrett struggled a lot in the paint. That is why, a ton of guys had issues finishing at the rim outside of Robinson, who's, 7 feet. So maybe that's why they're not very high on Cole Anthony. One guy they are high on, and it was one of the guys that you heard first. It was the first prospect's name you heard that the Knicks were interested in. And that's R.J. Hampton, who we are going to touch on as soon as we get back from break. Be right back.
All right, fellas. So really quick, I just want to remind you that if you haven't subscribed to my podcast on the many different platforms that I'm on, you can do so right now. And all you got to do that is go to my website. Just go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Once again, in order to subscribe to the podcast and listen to the podcast or watch it on the many platforms we have, go to my website at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect.
At 6'5", 180 pounds, with a 6'7" wingspan, RJ Hampton is a guard from New Zealand. 19-year-old kid, averaged 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists on 41%, 30% from 3, and 68% at the free throw line on a very low volume of 8 shots per game, 2.9 three-pointers, and 1.9 free throw attempts. Not my preference here. Don't love RJ Hampton. I don't know, man. Doesn't intrigue me. Athleticism, energy, hustle, confidence, maybe pick and roll potential, shooting upside. Maybe those are his pros, right? He's an athletic player, an excellent athlete who is going to excel in transition at the NBA level. That's one thing you can't knock him for. By the way, this clip right here on the screen is brought to you by Flow Hoops. So there's your credit there. But those are probably his positive, right? He's an athletic player. That's the one thing everybody knows him for. He's best when going downhill. Excuse me. Jesus. He's best when going downhill, attacking the basket off the bounce. And when he gets to the rim, he's pretty creative around there. Uses the rim as protection. And he's got nice touch to finish it off. So a quick leaper, quick runner, an above the rim finisher. That is probably the best feature about RJ Hampton, his athleticism. Got a lot of energy, got hustle, plays with confidence, can score in the pick and roll because of his ability to change speeds and directions, and he's very smooth in pick and roll as a scorer with good handles and good creation tools. And then the shooting upside. He has a nice shooting form with no wasted movement, so maybe he can be a good shooter. But at the same time, he didn't shoot good percentages. Again, 68% at the line. Didn't even get there a ton. Just 30% from 3. Didn't take a ton. So he's got to show it. We need some more indicators. And while he's got a nice upper, shooting form, it's a very odd looking lower half. When you look at his legs, his feet are too close together, kind of pointed in. It just doesn't look exactly right. So, in terms of RJ Hampton's, I don't know, offensive game, that's something that's going to be that's something that's going to need some improvement from the outside, perimeter scoring. And defensively, he's not great either. His pick and roll coverage is very poor. He's lost in pick and rolls. I've noticed that from seeing film on him. He's got pretty fucking poor footwork to where he can just give up driving lanes consistently for stretches. That's an issue. He'll be flat-footed at times in his stances. It's not fucking great. The help side defense can be sloppy. He'll fall asleep at times and he won't really give that last-minute effort. And he's very small at 180 pounds, very skinny. So he's going to have difficult times navigating around screens, which he already does. So I don't know. Man. Just a light kid is going to have to put on some more muscle. And he's going to have issues in the NBA unless he improves there. Playmaking, that's another weakness I have here. Not a true point guard, but also lacks the size to play the two. Like we had with Cole Anthony, except this kid doesn't even have the scoring mentality that Anthony does. He's got a scoring mentality, but he's not the scorer that Anthony is right now. He lacks the vision. He's a secondary playmaker at best, RJ Hampton. And then last but not least, the shot selection. While he is a decent finisher at the rim, he is very right-hand dominant. So he's kind of predictable at times. And, like with Barrett, he's dominant with one hand when he's going to the rim. That's why he has issues finishing. So we're going to have to see a lot of things tweak if the Knicks do select RJ Hampton at 8. So he's not my favorite prospect, but someone that people compared to Zach LaVine, because of the athleticism and, the handles. Jordan Clarkson, maybe. Dante Exum. And a lot of people, I think this is just very optimistic, have, because of the way he plays, a young Russell Westbrook. People think that if he does fill out his frame, that he'll be somebody who just lives in the paint and just dominates the paint. I don't know about that one. I don't know, man. RJ Hampton isn't the most intriguing prospect. But again, like most of these guys, if the Knicks do draft RJ Hampton, I'm going to have to live with it. You're going to have to live with it because, truth be told, there's nobody at number 8 that's going to jump off the page at you, right? Again, my preference here is Kyra Lewis, Killian Hayes, and then anybody after that, whatever. So we'll see what happens. Guys, thank you for stopping by. We're going to head to break one last time before we get to the NYK question of the day. Be right back.
A few different social media platforms today. If you want to follow my Instagram account, follow at Rob J. Carbone. If you want to follow my Facebook or Twitter account, follow at NY Sports Talk RC.
So last time out in episode 172 for the NYK question of the day, I asked you guys how far did the Knicks get in the 1994 postseason? The answer to that question is they got to the NBA Finals and they lost to the Houston Rockets. Tonight's NYK question of the day, episode 173. What high school did Mitchell Robinson come from? All right, so that's our question of the day. NYK question of the day for 173. What high school did Mitchell Robinson attend? All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for stopping by and listening to BD4 and watching BD4. And if you haven't subscribed to BD4, be sure to do so right now. Be sure to do it right now. Go to our website. Go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com, and that'll take you to my website. Navigate the screen. It'll show you where the blog is, where the podcast is located on all the platforms. It'll show you where to reach me on social media. If you're watching the podcast, you can see on the screen right behind me, where to reach me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then also the many platforms we are on as for the podcast. So guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, downloading, liking, sharing, comment on the podcast, do all that fun stuff. And once again, have a nice night. And I will see you in episode 174, whenever that may be. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.
This podcast is sponsored by Anchor.